It is smooth.
This has
Smooth
been
like
at your
jazz.
recommendation. So I was like, oh yeah, this is so smooth. You can just like drink it straight and it'll sound glorious. Just put it over ice, and it's pretty solid. And she took a sip and she's like, yeah, it's still a little too strong for my taste.
I always love that moment. How do you find out you're an alcoholic? Oh, my drinks are strong. Sorry.
Oh man, this is my
strong.
favorite drink ever. Wow, that's really strong. Well done.
Maybe I should think about that.
Someone's an alcoholic, and I'm not sure if it's me.
Moving on. All right, I'm ready. Are you guys ready? John, are you ready? Did you make your drink?
Drink.
Drank twice already.
Ooh. Cruella de Vil. Clink.
Get that woman away from my dog. She's terrifying. Hello and welcome to Strange Happy Hour. I'm one of your hosts,
cruel.
Brent, the Jesterhead Metcalfe, along with the cruel one.
The dispatcher.
Handsome John. Oh,
And of course, the other cruel one.
Handsome John.
There we go. Of course, we come to you each and every week to bring you the really cool tech news as well as the nerdy video game news. However, we do want to kind of take a moment to acknowledge the fact that it is not very easy out there right now. I don't know if you saw our post earlier this week, but we decided to opt out of a monthly update, rather sending our own message as a network as to our feelings and kind of sorting through what's going on in the world. We understand that this podcast is for entertainment, but that's not necessarily the only thing we're here for. We have our own feelings and thoughts as well. And we would love for you to share any stories of help or resistance or tips to help individuals. Not everybody has the strength to be out there or the desire to be out there during these protests. But feel free to drop it in the comments. Please talk to us on Twitter. Talk to each other. Of course, it's crazy to me that we are in 2020 and we still have to have these discussions. It's unfortunate that we still have to have these discussions. People are literally losing lives, both victims of the actual harassment and the violence, but also the individuals who are losing businesses on top of the fact that we just had to deal with COVID. COVID's not gone away either. Remember, wear your masks, wash your hands. But please feel free to share.
The people that would be unable to control themselves into acting and staying home. That also is responsible.
I agree. So feel free to share your stories, donations. I would love to help match some donations. I am not made of money, but I am willing to put some money out there. I already have done my own. So if you feel like donating, share your receipt in the comments below or on Twitter with me, and I will do my best to match your donation as well.
I'll second that as well.
So
I'm poor.
But it's time to move on. What we like to call this week, it's not, but we still have to call it by the title of it, which is
it's our segment.
The
important.
Yeah, the less important this week.
The less important. Yeah.
I think we're going to move over to you, Mr. Dispatcher, because we have some interesting news going on with employees at Facebook surrounding the events of this week.
Yeah, actually, so it's related to what we just talked about, or what Brent had just talked about. We're in an interesting point right now. Where social media in particular has been a target point for a lot of this, because obviously it's where a lot of the information is shared. It's where a lot of people get their news and get their information about what's happened. Unfortunately, there are guidelines and limitations to some of that anyway, that does, I guess, place limitations on the type of things you can say, in the sense of, like, you can't scream fire in a movie theater or fire in a theater, is the old saying anyway, and a lot of that falls in line with some of the rules and some of the rules that social media has put in place. Facebook and Twitter and Instagram being under Facebook, of course, have all put out things specifically saying that you cannot place or cannot make posts inciting violence. And that's pretty straightforward, pretty clear cut. But Facebook, unfortunately, Mark Zuckerberg specifically, apparently, had allowed Trump to post something that was inciting violence and was pretty clear cut on it. And the Facebook employees, as a result, had staged a virtual walkout.
Since they're now all working from home.
Right. Like you can't obviously physically walk out. But what they had done in turn is logged off of their computers and had set auto responses on their emails that they were not going to be working that day due to or in protests specifically. Mm-hmm. I think this is a great move on their part to really stick it to their own boss to say, hey, we don't agree with this. And it was even to the point that a Times reporter or a Times employee who was applying with Facebook and was in the interview process had actually called them up directly and said, I'm going to go ahead and decline the offer and protest because I don't agree with what you're doing.
Wow.
So it's interesting.
And two high-ranking individuals apparently aren't happy with his decision.
Right.
But I don't know if that is like, are we talking about senior VPs or are we talking about managers? Like,
the problem is a lot of that's internal. We won't know the details of it, but the real kicker here anyway, and the article linked below anyway, you'll see that a tweet was linked specifically where Mark Zuckerberg says in a congressional hearing, quote, if anyone, including a politician, is saying things that can cause, that is calling for violence or could risk imminent physical harm, we will take that content down. End quote.
That motherfucker should run for senator.
Like
he's really good at it already. Look at him, guys.
No kidding. But it's weird to see him, I guess, make that statement back from what he had talked about a couple months ago. Now, the interesting bit too, though,
lied in front of a congressional committee. Isn't that a felony?
I don't know. You can make that argument.
Pretty freaking direct.
Yeah. It would be an argument to make if anyone decided to call him up for another hearing, but or sue him for something. But
I would just do it to stick it in his ass. Not sexually.
The interesting bit here too is that Mark Zuckerberg specifically has talked about in the last couple of months, especially with the election being around the corner, that they don't want to do fact checking, that they don't want to, I'll come full circle in this in a second, but they don't want to be the quote arbiter of truth. And that's something Mark Zuckerberg specifically has talked about a lot in the last couple of months. And we've actually talked about it on this podcast too, of do they have a responsibility to hold truth on some of this, or realistically is free speech to some extent? If you want to spout off lies, free speech protects your ability to spout off lies if you really want to.
And this is where I draw the line.
Mark Zuckerberg in the last couple of months has talked about the fact that they don't want to be the arbiter of truth, and don't want to have to dedicate staff and time and responsibility for things that people post on their own content or on their platform. But it's weird to see him do that because it's in their terms of service that you're not supposed to post things inciting violence. That's not being the arbiter of truth here. That is you protecting the public from something that somebody says that might be in a position of power to do so. A lot of people follow Trump on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter. Now, we've already seen how Twitter's handling some of this.
Yep.
Facebook, being the owner of Instagram, obviously seems to have an okayness with this, and it was Zuckerberg specifically that I guess made the allowance or made the exception here.
Which is interesting too, because the president seems to, I think there's an argument to be made that he probably runs his own account because of the shit he says, but he himself posts the same things on all of his social media. So like whatever tweet you find, you'll find a post on Facebook for it. And Twitter flagged his tweet on a mail-in ballot as like, hey, here you can find.
Yeah, well, they didn't even flag it and say it was false necessarily. They just put a thing. Here's the facts about mail-in ballots.
To which the baby in chief threw a tantrum and decided he's going to do whatever. Yeah. But that same post on Facebook went completely unnoticed and nobody has said a word about it at Facebook. Like not even flagging it to say, hey, and I understand they don't want to be the arbiter of truth. That's not in their desire.
So that one I'm cool with. Honestly, that one I'm okay with. Don't get me wrong. I agree with the idea of fact checking. But if Facebook says we don't want to be the arbiter of truth, we don't want to have to fact check everyone, then you don't.
Here's my thing. If they want to be an observer or a direct, brain to mouth thing, then that's what they should be. You can't pick and choose which battles that you want to have with freedom of speech and all this other horseshit. It's about money to him. He wants it. And that's the part that makes this all feel dirty. It's all bullshit.
But that was my point anyway, is like if you're going to hold him to a different standard, then you need to remove it from your terms of service and make everyone available or give everyone the availability to incite violence on Facebook now, because suddenly that's okay for one person. It needs to be available for everyone though.
And anybody who doesn't believe that what he is saying inciting violence, I mean, he's literally saying go out there and, use force to stop these, use your word, or however word you want to phrase it. And
the looters are not the ones that are having force being applied to them.
Agreed.
And that's where, if you've noticed like throughout presidencies between the difference between Obama and their protests and Trump and their protests, whichever the temperament of the president is pretty much the temperament of the police departments, because they don't want to piss him off to get him incited to want to have to intervene. So they're like, we need to keep it down, or whatever their issue is. And Trump's a loose cannon. And they're like, let her rip. And it is very blatant and apparent. And, with Mark Zuckerberg, I don't care. If you want to be totally, you choose a path. Do you not want to care what people post and let it just be a mouth and you have your advertisement money? Or do you want to care and actually have a focused area of like, no, the bullying thing, we're going to keep on that. No violence being thrown out, and any blatant lie that's being told over a propaganda spiel or advertisement will not be used. Like,
it's not even that it won't be used. It's more, it's that the advertisements and the posts still go up, but fact checking now again, this tweet or this Facebook post is still different. This social media post is still different by a long shot. This is against the terms of service of every social media platform that he posted to. This should be a clear cut
Twitter
decision.
actually had it removed,
right?
And the White House retweeted it, like actually copied and pasted the tweet under the White House Twitter account, and that was also removed. They didn't even wait.
Easy peasy.
They pulled it. Yeah. And back to my point, I guess, was these actions have real world consequences, right? We saw this with Pizzagate, where it was just a conspiracy and people were just talking and everything's fine. But you can go to the Wikipedia, which it's Wikipedia, I understand, but there's plenty of people and sources here where they talk about Edgar Madison Welch, who a 28-year-old from Salisbury, North Carolina, who went up there in December 2016 with an AR-15 style rifle and stuck it into employees' faces looking for the supposed hidden underground child sex ring on
little did they know it's on Epstein's Island.
Yeah, correct. On March 24th, there was another individual, or he reached a plea deal. But on January 12th, 2017, Yusuf Lee Jones also pleaded guilty for threatening phone calls. There's been multiple people who are now in jail or have faced legal action because they believed these things that people are doing. And honestly, these are the best case scenarios. Thank God he did not go in there and just start randomly shooting.
Yep.
Right.
And to think for one, a second that what our president is saying cannot lead to actual violence, you're out of your fucking mind if you don't
because
believe
it's
that.
already been proven to happen.
Yeah.
But see, the problem is I feel like that's the difference, though. That's the line. If violence had actually been incited, somebody would have been prosecuted as a result.
Yeah. But should somebody have to deal with it, though? Or Twitter or Instagram?
I think he should. I think that Facebook and Twitter do have some responsibility here.
Should be responsible for what they post.
I mean, for
if people post on YouTube.
I mean, half of our stuff should probably be demonetized half the time. So yes, but yes, I think realistically, I think realistically, if you want to have something that's not Fortran or Infinitran or something like that, you know, where anything goes, where everyone knows that it's a black market type site, that if things are posted that should be taken down, they let them, because who cares? That's the point. Now,
Yeah.
Facebook and Twitter have reputations to maintain as a public, common person social platform. The majority of people don't go to Infinitran or Fortran to expect that it's going to be a family-friendly place to, you know, browse the internet. No. You want to go there for the dark stuff. That's the point. And if you want to incite violence, you want to post a manifesto, that's where you do it.
You
don't do it on Facebook because the idea is it's going to be taken down.
Yeah.
Because not that your average person doesn't care or doesn't want to see that and would rather have it taken down.
Yeah.
Better yet, Facebook and Twitter don't want to be responsible for them having that kind of stuff on their platform.
They literally hire people to do this. Like, they have gatekeepers. There was a terrible story, I think, earlier last year about these contract workers that work at Facebook who have seen awful shit, like self-mutilation and physical harm and sexual harm on individuals, because they're the ones who are keeping it from everyone else seeing it. And that's a whole other story about how they're contract workers and don't get benefits and basically suffer PTSD from this. But that's the point, is that these companies have like gatekeepers. Whether you want to be the arbiter of truth or not, you still have some responsibility here, because you already admit that by hiring and having a staff that does so.
No, I mean, at this point in time, then, well, what if 4chan was all of a sudden to become popular because that's what Trump wanted to use, and he's like, you know what, this has no limitations. This is what I'm going to post on, and people would have to go here to see what I say. And all those people would go to 4chan, and then they would be exposed to all these things. But they also have different terms of service.
You've seen Trump's response to this, though, right?
Yeah, he signed an executive order basically taking away their shield.
Well, no. So there's that. But Trump's political platform for the 2020 race has its own app now for him to post everything and anything he wants. The idea is it's his own platform, so nobody can tell him no.
Wow.
And that's the point.
I'm just the head of the game. Man, he should have hired me.
Now, the thing is of course people have to download that app and go to it and everything like that. And the majority of people are still going to get whatever ridiculous tweets about him that they want off of Twitter and Facebook. I'm just curious what kind of precedent this sets, though.
That's fine.
Now, of course, Zuckerberg, of course, had to backpedal on this, you know, as a result, and try to save himself. So he said that Facebook would be donating $10 million to groups fighting racial injustice. He said $10 million can't fix this. This is a quote. $10 million can't fix this. Expect to be in this fight, or that they expect to be in this fight for many years to come.
A tanning booth and bleach will fix him.
Yeah. But the problem is that it was an immediate response to Facebook's post or Zuckerberg's post as to why they wouldn't be taking down, why he wouldn't be taking down the post, or why they wouldn't take the quote unquote take the same action as Twitter specifically. So,
My problem with Zuckerberg is that he's a freaking coward in all respects. He lies just to get around what he needs to get around, and then he's just like, "Oh, here's some money," and I'm like, "You're that guy at a bar that picks up a girl, gets her pregnant, and throws money at her, and says, you know, go fix it." He's a piece of shit.
I don't like him because he says what's convenient in the moment.
Correct.
You're sitting in front of a congressional panel. So you're going to act like the world's biggest saint owning a massive social media company. That's great. Until it's finally time to act upon the things that you've just said. Well, now you're going to say what's convenient because Trump's going to dislike it because you already saw the effects of what happened when Twitter said even something remotely close to maybe. Like,
I want to know exactly what Trump's going to do with that information with that app. Like, when you sign up for it, exactly what are the terms of service going to be?
Oh man, I would love to know myself. Actually,
I mean, like, is he going to be able to be like, oh, I could do whatever I want. I could track you and your geolocation at any point in time while using this app, and you have to agree to this in order to use this app, or whatever.
Ugh.
So, and you
I don't
have
wanna
to
think
use
about
your
that.
real name, and it has to be verified. Like, I don't know. The dude's a total narcissist.
It's going to get nuts. But I think this did set a good precedent for Zuckerberg too, that his own employees won't take his neglect, I guess, or his fear for what could possibly happen on the other side of this. And actually, if I recall correctly, there's nothing that says that he actually reversed his decision to.
that's what I was going to ask.
I never saw anything about that.
Yeah, actually, come to think of it, I didn't see anything that said that he actually reversed his decision completely. Like he said he's going to donate the money, but
Excuse me.
let me see here.
Wake up.
I know.
So
I'll tuck it out.
let me see here. Oh, actually, this is an interesting quote from an employee, though, Lauren Tan. And one of the engineers, quote, Facebook's inaction in taking down Trump's post inciting violence makes me ashamed to work here. I absolutely disagree with it. I enjoy the technical parts of my job and working alongside smart and kind people, but this isn't right. Silence is complicity.
Yep.
When me and Brent and Brianna were traveling the world, we lied about where we were from so people wouldn't treat us horribly.
Oh yeah,
We told them we were Canadian.
yeah, we're Canadian.
Yeah, no, actually, there is nothing here that says that he actually reversed the post.
I don't think he did. And that's what I think makes another interesting point, because you're right in the sense of like, now he knows his employees are willing to take some form of action, but is that action enough? Is one day loss of productivity for Facebook enough for them to do anything about it?
It's a
The
tech
problem is
company.
most of those people that work
co-
at Facebook are low-earning individuals anyway. He's just going to put them through the meat grinder, and like everyone else does.
Yeah, I mean,
And-
Brent, you and I are software developers. If you and if we stopped working for a day, what's legitimately going to happen to the companies that we work for?
Yeah. Honestly, what's even crazier or scarier is the fact that if anybody's working on a project that has a deadline, which it's Facebook, I'm sure they have arbitrary deadlines, but nothing like crazy. Not like you're not releasing a game or a movie.
Or it's done by law.
But 9 times out of 10, you're just going to have to crunch to get it done anyway. So while you're protesting a day, you put that time back into the company anyways.
Yeah, I feel like if they decided we're going to go a week, like everyone is suddenly going to take paid vacation for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, put them an entire cycle behind on a release schedule, put them an entire cycle behind on any kind of hardware maintenance. Like, to me, the software developers are not the ones that are going to matter here. The engineers, the architects, those aren't the guys that are going to matter. It's the systems engineers. It's the guys who work with hardware. It's the guys who maintain the application, monitor log files. Those guys who handle the day-to-day functioning pieces of these applications, those are the people that are going to matter. If those people walk out for 2 weeks, the system could come crashing down. It depends on how stable it is. But I mean, who knows, you know? And I guess the problem is if it gets bad enough for somebody, eventually somebody's going to be a rogue agent in this, and Facebook's going to face some real issues. If Zuckerberg
Also a
really
valid
wants
point.
to press the envelope, I guarantee there is one person that you've shoved down into this dark warehouse of a place you call a data center that is willing to plug a flash drive into a server somewhere and say, this is an application. Or better yet, most things are click button solutions now. You just go boop and it's gone. Suddenly a whole data center is gone, or some rogue data is being, copied and manipulated. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Mark, it's something to think about.
Yep. Absolutely. I think it's interesting you talking to yourself there.
I know, right?
If
Please let us
only
know what
I was the world's youngest billionaire. Anyway.
Please let us know what you think
Right?
about
I'd have a better computer.
the Facebook virtual walkout in the comments floating above Mark, like a
Below.
mark,
Below.
like a really creepy mark.
One that just
Stare he had in Congress.
waxy
like with
skin
a
and
with a
looks
name
like
called
a
Zuckerberg and
mannequin.
last name is
Zuckerberg, correct? Yeah.
And it's probably
and a golf
super
club.
interesting in bed.
golf club, John.
Weird way to go
with
with
a golf
that.
club and a shaving razor.
Yeah, we're gonna move on to my topic, which involves some more social media giants. We're talking about Twitter this time and Reddit, which you kind of briefly went around to mention it because Reddit's another platform.
Yeah, Reddit I think is still the family-friendly location
version of
for
4chan,
things.
yeah.
That's a good way of putting it.
With the quotations here.
Yeah.
Both companies are highlighting how the Trump administration is stifling speech, freedom of speech on the internet. So it appears that there was a lawsuit filed last year by the Knight First Amendment Institute at Columbia University, where they are saying that the Trump administration has been implementing a system where they're trying to bolster their extreme vetting process. And that requires applicants to register their social media identifiers to be monitored and disseminated.
Can't have you hiding anywhere.
That means that they're requiring you to hand over your user information for social media so that they can figure out who this is, who you
dick
are.
Size, because he wants to know how jealous to be.
Dick size, correct. What I found interesting about this, though, is that in an amicus, I don't know what an amicus brief is. I probably should look that up before I got
I was thinking abacus. I was like,
amicus brief. Reddit and Twitter note that under the policy, 4.7 million people are required to register their social media accounts every year. By the government's own admission,
14.
they say the 14. What did I say? 4?
4, yeah.
Oh yeah, 14. Add another 10.
14.7 million.
Case who
Anyway,
assists
go
in
ahead.
court by offering information, expertise, or insight that is a bearing on issues in a case.
Okay, so it's information for a case, basically. By the government's own admission, they say the information not only impacts people's ability to obtain visa, but quote, but is also shared broadly to other federal government agencies to aid them in reaching decisions on deportation and the denial of immigration benefits, end quote. So this surveillance doesn't just impact people coming into this country or looking for visas or immigration. I mean, foreign students who are trying to come over here to go to school, anything like that. But it also impacts organizations that are trying to do either research or filming or trying to figure out how to get into dangerous territory outside the United States. So they're trying to go undercover with a gang or even a terrorist organization so they can film and document and figure that out. They now have to reveal themselves to the government that is then sharing it not just internally with our government, but possibly with other governments, which puts them at risk. It is all kinds of bad. So basically, at any point in time, you thought you were kind of safe.
Just get a burner phone and have your thing there, and you just have your innocent little Twitter account, and you do nothing with it.
You basically have to hide everything as much as possible at this point in time because they're just searching for more stuff
because they want to be invasive.
And if you find out you're dishonest, you get denied your visa or your immigration or whatever else you're looking for.
Beaten by police every 5 seconds.
Yeah. That's a good point. What is so fascinating to me though is that Twitter and Reddit are coming together to be part of this actual lawsuit. Again, filed last year, which you don't really see a whole lot. Most large companies like this tend to let the others fight for themselves, but the fact that they're coming together under one umbrella for this is fascinating in and of itself. And I was just curious as to what your thought. I mean, Mark, you are the tech person here. John, you're kind of the conspiracy theorist here. I fall somewhere in between the two of you.
You say it's wrong, but I've been right about a lot of stuff recently.
I never say it's wrong. I just am putting a label on it.
It's interesting. It's always interesting.
But I mean, Twitter and Reddit also add that people need anonymity online to protect information about family members or to be anonymous to anonymously interact with addiction and mental health services. Seek spiritual guidance. Like there's any number of reasons why you would want to stay anonymous and not have that information out there. And of course, let's just also talk about the fact that once it is in government hands and they have it recorded in a database somewhere, now all of a sudden it is tied to you. Whereas that burner email account that you just created on a whim legitimately has no ties to you other than whatever dummy data you put in. Now it's tied directly to your name. It's kind of a problem.
Everybody else has the right to anonymity. Why shouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
well,
there's always the chance that you're gonna have a terrorist. I mean, there was people are complaining about, weapons and stuff. There was a dude flying around protest the other night with a machete. I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but the world's dangerous. You kind of have to be aware of your surroundings. So.
I'm going to be a little bit of a devil's advocate here in saying that, and maybe this is something you guys can flat out tell me I'm wrong offhand, and somebody else can tell me down in the comments if I'm wrong here. But these visa applicants, do they really have First Amendment rights if they're not citizens?
Yes, I do believe that is the case. I'll do a quick little Googling, but if I remember correctly, anybody who's coming to enter into our country has certain protections. They're also afforded.
I think it's a right to a lawyer.
Because I guess the other question is, what do they need that information for? Like, I mean, I get like they're aiding them into reaching decisions on deportation, but like, if I run a really fucked up Facebook page and you suddenly have my account information, or a really bad, or if I'm a moderator on a really bad subreddit on Reddit,
there is no citizenship requirement for First Amendment protection. If you're in the U.S., you have freedom of speech, religion, press, assembly, and petition.
Interesting.
So there you
go from there.
Yeah. Well, that's the scary part about it. Like, it makes no sense as to why they'd want that information or why they even deserve to have that information. I mean, I think on this show, try to advocate very much so of extend yourself out to your own comfortability and then stop. If you're not comfortable with people knowing X, Y, and Z about you, find a way to protect it, whether it's your passwords for your bank account, whether it's your login information to your email. Hell, I have been working I got to swap my password now, but I'm getting ready to change my PlayStation account because that matters a lot to me. I don't want anybody to have access to that because I don't want to lose that.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, think about it. Like, I've had my Apple account get hacked, and that was an awful feeling. And basically, you're just giving up your right to not have that happen at any point in time. And I'm like, no, I have a right to have my things. I have a right to have a closed door. I have a right to look at porn whenever I want and not have the government go, well, this guy's a freak. You just go ahead and take him back.
Unless it's child porn, in which case you don't have that right.
No, then you go to hell.
Okay.
No, then you can get out of here with that. Like,
yeah. So, and I think that's the scary part, right? Because we wouldn't, as U.S. citizens, we would never be okay with this.
Yeah.
And it does impact U.S. citizens, but like,
imagine going to the DMV and they say, "Hey, we need your Facebook, your Twitter, your Reddit account, your what? Yeah, we need to know all these usernames and everything." I
would give him all of Mark's information.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Then the moment I'd go, it'd be like, no, somebody already registered with this information. What?
Fraudulent. But just like anything else, like, you have your right to do whatever. I have, I think, 3 email accounts. 2 of them are tied to Pokemon Go, so I can have an extra Pokemon Go account. Like, no, I'm not giving you that information. That's it for me. Get out of here. I know they're not saying email accounts specifically, but like social media accounts. We have multiple social media accounts for Strange Gaming and then our individual accounts. Yep. You know, I know plenty of people who have that. Some of it's professional over personal.
I just think that we have to accept as a society, in both our government and our people, that you should be okay with a little bit of risk. Yeah. If you think that having it's not like their social media account has stuff that you can't really see. And even if it's in a direct message or whatever, it'd be no different if they got a burner phone and did it that way. So wouldn't you rather just know who they are and then be able to figure it out later on through, Twitter, saying, oh, this is Ahmed's Twitter account. If you want to look at it, you can. You can watch it all you want to off of Twitter, whatever. But to have to give away all this other information is just retarded.
Especially when you're talking about the fact that, like, we don't know what the guidelines are when they're using this information, right? So if I'm coming into this country, I'm on a student visa, I want to try and stay here, and I posted about how America sucks because they have protests and burning down the city, and they deny my visa application because of that.
Or they decide to deport you. They can use it for that information as well.
Like, you'll never know what the reason was for. It's not made public. There's no actual screening process that has any sort of, governance on the government itself. That's the biggest issue out of this entire thing is like, you want to take this information and use it, but you're not even giving us the standards in which it's being used, any sort of like warning system to tell individuals when it's being used against you. Like, nope. That's just nuts to me. That's 1984.
But to me, this goes back to what the whole reason Edward Snowden is now considered an enemy of state. Well, he released information about the NSA saying that they were privately spying on people without their knowledge. Now, the difference here, of course, is you're willingly providing your username,
correct?
But they're making it a requirement. Now, actually, I'd be curious if you showed up to the U.S. applying for a visa and you didn't supply this information because, let's say, you say, I don't have one. I don't have a Reddit account. I don't have a Facebook account. I don't have a Twitter account. What are they going to do? But regardless, this still comes back to I guess going back to my original point of
stipulation. If you make one, you have to tell us.
To what you were talking about, Brent. It's still a conversation of you don't know what you're looking for. You don't know what they're looking for. You don't know when they're looking for it. You don't know what criteria necessarily they're going to say yes or no on. Like if I'm posting a joke account and it just happens to have some really dark humor in it, is that going to deny the ability for somebody to get a visa?
Probably.
Or you put a tweet out that you angry at the moment, disagree with, you delete it. But they happen to notice at that moment. Well, guess what? Now that's part of the data set and it's denying you.
How many people do you think are looking at your visa, by the way? Probably one, maybe two people actually that are required to pass it. What if you're like, I don't really care for Methodists all that much in a tweet or something. I prefer Protestants. And they're like, yep, screw that asshole. Boop.
Well, so remember, it's not just one agency that looks at it, though. There are several agencies that have automated and personal reviews that happen for visa applications, for citizenship applications, for everything, for green cards, for everything, there are always different types of checks by different agencies. And the idea is that you don't know how individual agencies are using this information, but you have to now willingly provide it. Why does that matter?
I mean, at the same time, we live in a country right now where a U.S. senator just got pepper sprayed and arrested by the police in his own state.
Yeah.
Anything's possible.
It's almost like we have a lot of dysfunction going on, and there's a current administration involved with a lot of that dysfunction.
We as a country have a really serious problem with balance of privacy in both technology and in our personal lives. In our personal lives, we tend to lean much towards the stay out of my business. And that's perfectly fine. It's like, yeah, that's your business. You put up a fence, you do what the hell you want in there. You come out of that fence, that's a different story. Don't let me see what happens behind that fence. I don't have to care. But if I have to, we have a problem. But in technology, everybody is so much more forward with how they feel and what they put up there that it kind of breaks that barrier of privacy already. But people still want freedoms, but they still want to be what they are behind the fence in real life. So when you look at anonymity in the sense of technology, it's just controversial because it's new and it's something that we haven't had to deal with for very long at all. I mean, for only half of our lives have we even had, just half of our lives we've had a Facebook account because, not even, I think it was like Facebook was just released.
I'll say I didn't
high school people at the time I was about to graduate high school.
I would say I didn't get one, I think, until college in 2010 or 2011.
Yeah, I mean, I got one, but I didn't know what to do with it. I mean, I was just like, this is cool.
I did basically the same thing I did with MySpace minus all the page customization. So
yeah, I never got to MySpace. Never did it.
I did because my girlfriend at the time was really big into it, so I had one that had a quote from
your top 5 and then eventually your top 8. That shit mattered, man.
Oh yeah.
That's what I hear. I feel like I missed out.
But ultimately, I think you're right, John. And I think we're not the only nation that struggles with this. Obviously, we're here in the thick of it, so we talk about our specific situation. But other nations have got around it multiple ways. The UK is one of the most videotaped
Watched.
populations on the entire planet
They
because they
have
have
more
CCTV
CCTV cameras than per
everywhere.
populace than any other country.
So for them, this may not be nearly as big a situation because their normal everyday lives are monitored
Well,
to
it's
a
not just
much
that.
larger
They also
extent.
have more laws. They have more direct, specific laws where ours have loopholes for one
People
reason or
to,
another.
yeah.
A lot of them, you could
I
definitely
know.
tell was
I wanna
meant
leave it
to
there.
allow others to get
Okay,
away with
Just
it.
make sure.
I
But,
appreciate you.
Not that one. That's it's up here. There it is. Yeah, it's still there.
It don't matter.
Get it, buddy. The but I feel like our country in general,
Ooh,
mainly because we have
suave
such a
man now.
divide between not just religion, but in beliefs when it comes to personal set beliefs of
Yeah.
like, beyond religion, of what you find is moral or what you find is just. And, that clashes, and we're seeing that now. And
Yeah.
until we hash this out, which, you know what? We've had fights before. I don't think we've ever gotten to a fist fight. But I mean, there's been a couple of times where we got pissed at each other. But I'm not going to say that we were gonna duke it out. But maybe it came to that, and things could be different. Things could get better because of it. Things could be completely destroyed. So it's like when I look at these clashes right now that we're having on the internet and clashes that we're having in real life, I don't know if anything's going to come of it, but something has to give. So
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. Absolutely.
that's why we have wars. It's the same concept.
Yeah, and people advocating for a civil war right now, but we don't need to talk about that. That's a Facebook post. We don't need to talk about that.
Yeah.
Please let us know what your thoughts are on the Trump administration requiring all of your social media for these various applications. Are you okay with it? Does this bother you? Would it bother you if you needed to give it away without having to be maybe a visa applicant, maybe if you needed it for the DMV or something? Please let us know in the comments floating to my right, like my hair was all messed up earlier.
Like Trump? Oh, anyway, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's all good. I don't even, that man's not really right. Come on. He's just insane. He's not, that's what kills me. He's not a conservative, nor is he like a liberal. He is just whatever he believes.
He's just
right.
orange.
Yeah, there you go. I like that. He's just Cheeto, and I'm sure Cheetos is insulted by it. But
I have to say, they're like, man, how are we going to get away from this? We have to rebrand somehow.
Green Cheetos.
There you go. And now they're all green. And then we get
I don't want to know what that poop looks like.
Applying for presidency. Our final topic of the show is going to put us back into our typical swing of things, which I think is perfectly fine. John, talk to us about some PlayStation news. What's going on? PS5.
Originally, our plan this week was to look at the PS5 reveal and give this to you guys in the best way that we knew how, which was just talk out of our ass about things that we like and don't like. But that's not happening this week because of what's going on in the world with the protests. And PlayStation thought that it was in their best interest to not spread this right now. It's not the time. We want everybody's collective thoughts and attention on it. And we feel like this would just betray that. And a lot of people are super receptive and respectful of their decision, which I kind of agree. I feel like it's kind of like, it's hard to be happy about something you want in a time where there's other people needing help, and it would have been, it wouldn't have landed right. It would have been
agreed.
It would have been pretty bad.
Well, what's interesting too is that Sony honestly was the first company I know of that did this, because this week specifically in video games, a lot of is going down. It's the second today. On the 5th, IGN was supposed to kick off their summer of gaming. They're on the 11th. There is a touch point on Cyberpunk 2077. The PlayStation event, which was happening this Thursday on the 4th. Like, there's a lot of announcements that were planned. All of them have delayed it. Every single one without it. IGN's the only one with a definitive date. Every single other one of them is like, we're going to delay it for right now, because it's not our time to talk. It's somebody else's time to talk.
Yeah.
So,
and it's cool to see that, companies still have that kind of foresight, even though a lot of people are giving companies crap saying, you don't really believe this. You're just trying to go for the attention. And, I do believe that some companies do believe this. And now not everybody in that organization might feel the same, but, you usually get a pretty good feel about how the culture is. And PlayStation is a business, but in general, they also tend to respect things, I think, a lot better than other companies that we've dealt with in the past. So it's kind of cool to see. But
Yeah,
to
agreed.
get back to the PlayStation news, there's a couple of new developments in a particular way when it comes to the process of the PS5 and what to expect between the transfer between PS4 to PS5. And it was said that Mark Cerny is not interested in making the PS4 version of PS5 games. Um, he
Makes
is
sense.
saying that he wants to make the most of the new console and its advanced features, which makes sense. I mean, 100. Like, if you want to make a game for the PS5, make a game for the PS5. If you want to make a PS4 game, make a PS4 game.
Yeah, not Mark Cerny, the CEO of PlayStation, Jim Ryan.
Mark Cerny is the one that just said what I just said. Oh, Jim Ryan. Oh my God, what's wrong with me? Thank you for correcting me.
I looked so confused when you said that.
I was like, I'm literally reading the article. You put it in there.
I'm sorry. My brain had Cerny in it. I don't know why.
You're good. You're good.
In his statement,
yeah. I was just going to say, I think it's more important because though Mark Cerny is the architect of the PS5, he doesn't really get a say in what games are developed or what for. The CEO does. Like, he gets to help decide that direction. So
yeah, it's a big difference. It was a name thing. I'm sorry.
You're good, man.
Jesus, roast me. Why don't you? So in this quote to continue, we do believe that in generations, whether it is a DualSense controller or where it's the 3D audio or whether it's the multiple ways that the SSD can be used, which by the way is 100% higher data transferring speeds as the regular PS4. We are thinking that it's time to give the PlayStation community something new, something different that they can really enjoy on the PS5, which, I totally understand where they're coming from. It's a new system. It's got new stuff. If you're going to make a new game, make a new game. Totally cool with that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not only that,
the only I'll let you go. That we'll
just if they're really if the SSD really loads that much faster and can really put that much power into it, you're not going to want to have the lesser version of XYZ game out there anyways. You want to show off and flaunt that power.
I knew you were going to say this, and this is why I waited.
I mean, the thing is, at this point, what? I guess if once PS5's launch comes about, especially if you have a game now that you're in development for that would release anytime around PS5, what would be the point of developing for PS4 now? Even if you're developing for PS5, the advanced technologies. You already
have a large base of people that you may want to grab.
But the problem is, as soon as PS5 comes out, that base goes away to a good extent. I'm not saying all of them. I'm saying most of them.
Your hardcore people will buy initially, and I think that we will be surprised to see what the supply of the PS5 is going to be and how available it is up front.
Right, but the problem you're still going to run into is you're essentially developing two games, though. You can develop a PS4 game and adapt it to PS5, but the issue is you're not going to take advantage of any of the new tech. You're not going to take advantage of the new storage speeds. You're not going to take advantage of the better AI performance because that's available now in your graphics chips and better processing power for CPUs. And it's just going to be...
The PS4 game can still be benefiting from a PS5 update. I mean... back in April, the test for a PS4 game was available to make sure it worked on the PS5. So they are able to see if it didn't. You would be able to see whether it did and did not improve.
Right, yeah,
Spider-Man being one of them.
You're going to get improvements over it, but there's still. I think a great example is looking at Black Flag or Shadow of Mordor from this past generation. Right, it released on 360, PS3. Xbox One and PS4, and while Black Flag did okay, a lot, Ubisoft is a third-party developer. They're going to want to make their money where they can, so of course they're going to develop games for both platforms. But Shadow of Mordor was notoriously bad on PS3 and 360, to the point where it is not the same game. Bad.
It was noticeably bad on PC as well, but that's because they went for the middle ground. They didn't go for an optimized version of one or the other. So.
Yeah, but on PS4 and Xbox One, that game is incredible and touted as such. So there's definitely a difference between taking a PS4 game and giving it a little bit of an upgrade and then trying to develop the same game on two separate sets of hardware.
100%.
And trying to get the perfect version out of it, especially when one is significantly more powerful.
Right.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I was just going to point out sales numbers because we were talking about taking the base away. For the first year, Sony sold about a little less than 30 million. Now their total sales right now are 108 million. So it's just under a quarter of your total base earned in that first year. So for Sony, it makes perfect sense to build exclusively for PS5, build that base up as fast as possible by giving
100%.
people a reason. Whereas third party is going to build for both because they want to get as much money as they can.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The approach is actually different from Microsoft, which is why we just got done bashing it, which is why it's so funny. Their plan for the Xbox Series games also works on older Xbox One hardware, though it's also going to be of lower quality. You might run into more bugs like we were talking about with Shadow of Mordor, and it might not even feel good. So, I mean, that is the trade-off, but PlayStation also has been about quality and wanting things kind of like Apple is with their products, where they want to control everything and make sure that it works on their console as much as possible, though they have had their bumps and bruises
Fair share
in the past. Knack being one of them, which is hilarious to me.
The original Knack's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Had problems.
It's no Days Gone.
But that also comes to the other part that we were talking about, where the PS4 games that are created, are they going to work on PS5? Well, as of July of 2020, all games released by that date or further, any PS4 games released must be compatible with the PS5. And as I was telling you earlier, Mark, as of April of this year, they have had the developer kit has had an option to conduct tests to see its compatibility on 5.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, I agree. And it also is really interesting. But the thing that I found to be, it's actually July 13th, not just July. Should open that up. Also, that the 100 top played PlayStation 4 games at launch will have a backwards compatibility for PlayStation 5.
Yeah. I think backwards compatibility is super important this generation. There's an argument to be made. It was important last gen, but neither Xbox One nor PS4 had it right away. Eventually, that's weird. There's a design on your face. Eventually, Xbox One received it, and it is definitely something in their plus column, but they were so far behind on sales and building that ecosystem out. It's hard to justify it. Whereas starting off on the same foot, both of them coming out with new consoles this year. If you don't have backwards compatibility and your opponent does, you're just asking for a bruising, asking for it entirely, especially when you talk about the fact that these consoles are more than likely going to be more expensive than the previous generation, which was relatively I wouldn't say inexpensive, but relatively affordable. PS4 for $400 at launch, not the worst thing in the world, but the fact that Sony hasn't announced a price, the fact that Xbox hasn't announced a price, and they're still sitting here going, well, we'll see. My guess is at least $500, if not more, which means some people are selling their PS4s or Xbox Ones to buy the newest generation. So yeah, backwards compatibility better be there.
I will not. My PS4 Pro will become my VR main computer.
I think living in a virtual reality experience.
Compatibility will be there. I just don't think that the games will be there for the modern console.
I agree. Well, from Sony's perspective, they definitely won't.
Right.
Yeah. I don't understand why you would. Again, you're trying to sell PS5 consoles.
Right.
You want to give reason.
You want games for PS5. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah. So
we'll find out. We'll see if I can eat a pizza on Brent.
We'll find out. Just because, again, we're gonna wait until it actually launches. I want you to know that.
I know.
Horizon Zero Dawn 2.
No. If it said that it's supposed to come out within that launch time, I win.
No,
you can't just
it
got delayed. Happens
yes,
that I win.
That's exactly what happens. It doesn't go out in the actual launch window. It doesn't fucking come out in the launch.
Go out in the
that
launch
doesn't
window.
matter.
It's fine. You can't just be like, wait, COVID effed you, John. And be like,
guess what?
No.
COVID effed you. Get over it.
No, you get over it, motherfucker.
Can I note that it will be great to see one side or the other of this pizza bet happen during quarantine?
Oh, it'll be great. It'll be so good.
I'm going to eat it the whole time. Be like, you just read my stuff, Brent.
For those who don't remember, John and I have a bet going on that Horizon Zero Dawn 2, he believes it'll launch within the launch window of 6 months after PS5's launch. I believe it will not, and we
it's
shall
a pizza
find
bet.
out.
It's a pizza bet.
Pizza bet. So if it is indeed,
And I called this out way before they even had talks of Horizon Zero Dawn 2.
correct,
I want to
yeah, well,
note
we
that the
know.
results of this pizza bet, and no matter who wins, I'm still the winner.
You're not, because I'll be
I
eating
was
for
like,
myself.
if we're not in quarantine, you're the winner. If you're,
You can come over here if you want some pizza. I'll hand it through the window. Be like, here you go, buddy.
But please let us know what you think about the PlayStation 5 information. Are you excited for the announcement event whenever they actually give that out? Do you look forward to the next generation of consoles, or could you care less because you're a PC nerd? Let us know in the comments floating directly above Mark. Because
I will
he's
let you
raising his
know in the
hand.
comments below.
Oh, me. And now it's time for last call.
Last
call. You
was
don't have
way
to go
ahead of you guys.
home, but you
Yeah,
can't stay
no.
here. Actually, it timed really well for me, so we all
For you, sure.
Yeah. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Of course, we are all at our separate locations, drinking our own special guests. And I, this week, decided that I was going to have some Sam Adams Summer Ale. It is a very light, refreshing
Ooh.
wheat citrus ale that I
Love the
thoroughly
summer ale.
enjoy. Yeah, big fan.
I'm drinking Old Fashioned. This is Old Fashioned number 3.
That's why he's slurring his words.
See, he's finished that whole bottle through one episode. It's ridiculous. The
It is not a
man
problem.
It was
needs
about
a
3/4
Jameson intervention.
Do you want to explain your recipe?
Yeah, sure. So there was a recipe that, well, not really. Yeah, there was a recipe in Ireland when me and Brent traveled to Ireland with his now wife. And she was your wife then too.
Yeah, she was my wife.
That was the honeymoon. We went over to the Jameson. Was it be the distillery or was it
Yeah.
just the museum?
Yeah, it's the Jameson Distillery.
Yeah.
They use it as a museum as well.
Yeah. So there was a bartender there that made us some old fashions, and he made it with a port that tasted of raisins. And I have yet to find anything that was that close. I did find one thing that was pretty close, but it didn't hit it like when we drank it in Ireland. And then I found this, which is Dom. The Benedictine. It is a herbal type of liqueur, which gives it a amazing roll on your tongue, with the orange being rolled around the lip of the glass. And you have to add no sugar or anything else like that, which is actually something I like more.
Oh, nice.
And it's got a beautiful taste. You can taste every bit of the whiskey along with the Benedictine with the orange. It's delicious.
Yeah, it's really tasty, and it is now my preferred way to make old fashioned, along with the
To
bitters.
make it, you take the rind of an orange, swish it around the rim of the glass, throw it in, mix it with the bitters that I use, orange bitters and Angostura bitters. I always want to say agnostic
Agnostura.
bitters. But
Agnostic
and
bitters.
a 2-to-1, 2 ounces of whiskey to 1 ounce of Dom. Mix it around, strain, and you got your orange peel inside your glass with your large ice cube, and you're good to go. Super easy,
So
quick.
tasty,
Nice.
so tasty. What about you, there, dispatcher?
Well, this was actually a recommendation. We've had this on the podcast before, but this was a recommendation that came from Brent at one point. I am drinking effing cucumber. Effing vodka, cucumber flavor.
Cucumber accents the
Now,
water.
there are no rocks
such a
left,
way.
but, I was drinking it on the rocks. Literally, this is so good. You can toss it in a shaker with some ice, shake it up, pour it, and drink it straight.
Yeah.
Done.
I like
so
the black
tasty.
cherry too.
Very good. It tastes very much like cucumber if you soak the cucumber in vodka for a week.
Yep, that's correct. It's delicious.
It is very good. Many recommendations.
Many wow.
Much fun.
Of course, for our weekly reading, I actually found a very good article done by IO9, which is part of the Gizmodo family, which is a portrait of a cosplayer on the front line. This is a nurse. Yep, Nurse Frances Gualta, I believe as it is, who works in England in the intensive care units, who is a very, very big cosplay fan, who shockingly pulls off male and female cosplay very well. Like he's incredibly talented, but has also been dealing with the ramifications of COVID-19. So going through the process of this interview was a little hard to read at times, but also incredibly fascinating, highlighting somebody who is not only a nerdy fan, but also helping out in the world. Definitely worth looking into. The weekly deal is a humble RPG bundle. For $30, you get a plethora of assets. Now, assets are some of the most expensive parts or time-consuming parts, depending on who you are, when it comes to creating a game. And this bundle is actually really, really cool because for simply $1, you get 3 different backgrounds, a bunch of human and monster sprites, and actual dialogue, inventory sounds, weapon packs, all that just for $1. And then, of course, if you pay over the average and hit the maximum, which is 30, we're talking at least 25 different asset packs, whether it's sounds or tile sets for making a 2D RPG. So very cool. I'm gonna go ahead.
Oh, that was the next thing I was going to ask. I was like, was it only going to be for 2D or if there were actually 3D assets in there? So but still, but you could build a decent platformer with that kind of stuff. Like you could
100%.
Like that'd be really cool.
And they're, you get the full assets yourself, so it's not tied to an engine. Whereas like if you buy something on the Unity store, you're stuck with using it in Unity. This gives you rights to use it anywhere you want with whatever language you want. You can make some really cool stuff, including RPG Maker, which is a drag and drop RPG machine that is free for you to create games in. So $30, you can make your own game. For some cool shit this week, right as we were recording last week, fans released their own E3 style conference for Wholesome Games. It was a Wholesome Games Direct. We of course didn't get a chance to talk about it because it happened while we were recording, but I wanted to highlight it because Wholesome Games honestly is just a little Twitter account. And the fact that these guys came together to make their own direct style, like professionally done 30-minute video announcing a bunch of games that are either out or coming out that fall into the wholesome category, I think is really, really cool. So there's also a wonderful little article about how a dev has ported Doom to the Playdate, which is the handheld we talked about with the crank.
Yeah.
And in order to fire the gun, including the chain gun, you have to use the crank.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So you can see the video of that as well.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you know who was supposed to buy that was Dylan. Did he ever buy that?
So he attempted to get it, but they are very strict on dev copies right now. So he was actually denied.
Huh.
Yeah.
Why?
So because he had to prove that he was a dev and they're not giving away media copies, which is what he normally does. He usually says, hey, I'm part of a media group, and he can get something.
Yeah, but you guys are devs. Why don't you just get a dev copy then?
Because we would have to prove that we're an actual dev company.
Oh, not a company, but
yeah.
No, that's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. No, like I said, they're being very stingy this time around, which I found fascinating because I'm like, this is a very awkward, weird thing. You'd figure you want to get it into anybody's hands who wants to play with.
Yeah, it's not like everybody's begging. You're going to have specific individuals going, I want to do something like
that. Yeah. And finally, our question of the week, slightly inspired by a conversation I had with John, but is what do you do when you are burnt out on your favorite hobby?
Ooh.
So obviously, when we were talking about this, I'll go first since I'm already locked and loaded. I usually like to play lots of games. So I've already like Platinum 7 games this year. This was like in May, I had Platinum 7 games. So I was playing Division and got burned on some exotic caches that I was working really hard, putting a lot of hours for. A lot of them unnecessary because I didn't realize I could have done it anyway. It kind of sucked, and it really kind of just like I was looking at all these games that I have on the backlog that I've already started and need to finish, and I'm a completionist, so I want to. And I promised that I wouldn't start another game until I finished Devil May Cry. And then I was like, so I just went over into my anime storage and just started plowing through some anime that I've been neglecting because I've been playing so many video games. So I usually go between movies, shows, and Westworld as well. As I totally haven't watched season 3 yet. I go between all of those things for shows, movies, and stuff. Like I don't really watch a whole lot. It's used as my separation between when I want a game and when I don't.
Okay, that's fair.
Reading a book every now and then. Not a lot because I'm kind of illiterate, but I try to read the ones with pictures in them.
Damn.
I think they call them mangas.
Manga. I'm very similar in that regard. One of my big hobbies is definitely gaming. When I fall off of gaming, movies and shows are actually not my go-to immediately. I tend to watch a little bit more simply because I have the free time to do so. But reading is a big one for me, whether it's a book, whether it's manga, even sometimes just audiobooks on their own. Big aspects for myself when I am not in the mood to game.
So that's what I do when I work.
I mean, it used to be what I did when I would walk around work, but now I work from home, so I don't have to worry about it as much. Another big one for me too is walking and hiking. Not that I don't do those already, but I tend to do them more when I am not in a gaming mood. It gets me out and running around a lot more. So,
okay.
Guys, see those green colors.
Yeah, exactly. Especially now that it's nice and warm outside or overly hot, one or the other. Depends on which one, what time of day it is or what time of the season is here in North Carolina.
Walk in the shade.
But like my normal hobby is usually software development. I mean, like I do it for a career, but I also enjoy it on the side too. You know, I'd almost put that about equal with video games on the side there. But the realistically, video, like I kind of alternate the two. Like if I'm bored from one, I do the other to some extent. The only other exception there is because there's an occasional time where I don't want to sit in front of a computer screen. I don't want to be, you know, like at my desk all the time, sitting in this same extremely comfy chair that I've been in all this time. But
you poor soul.
But I generally try to take the motorcycle out. Now that's been stifled quite a bit, you know, with COVID because I don't like I enjoy taking the motorcycle out here and there, but like I use it as a regular mode of transportation to some extent, which does give that kind of same freedom feeling, you know, whenever I'm out instead of just sitting in a car, you know, in traffic. But I enjoy riding the motorcycle sometimes just out of a pure, I want to ride and explore a little bit. Especially if I'm bored of both gaming and programming or sitting in front of a computer for the day, that kind of thing. I really just want to get out and do something that's generally my escape.
Well, like you don't have a destination kind of thing. You just want
like the last time I took a motorcycle out, I was actually trying to sell the old motorcycle, which I still have actually, come to think of it. But the last time anyway, I needed to take it out for a little while. Huh?
How much did you want for it?
It doesn't matter. I got somebody I'm literally meeting tonight to exchange some money for. But anyway, I had, you know, decided I wanted to take it out and get away for a little bit. And I got out on the motorcycle. It was the first time I had ridden that bike in a while. And it's an upright, it's a really comfortable bike. And instead of just taking it out to the gas station or around the block and coming back, I went to the airport. I went to, you know, some stores. I grabbed some stuff. I explored, found some new roads. I was constantly stopping, opening up Google Maps and getting a bird's eye view and saying, I wonder if I can get here. I wonder if I can get here. I wonder if I can do this, that, and the other.
I'm going to help you. It's called Atlas Obscura.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It will be the thing that will keep you so entertained because I'm with you, Mark. I used to go to the airport and just kind of listen to the planes take on and take off because my family was into planes and I was always around them. And that
definitive guide to the world's hidden wonders. I like the idea.
And to everyone watching, you should 100% use Atlas Obscura. It is now the number one tool Bree and I use whenever we travel somewhere. So we look into Atlas Obscura to see what it is we can find.
Yep. I mean, quite frankly, like when we started going through Ireland, we're like, been to a lot of these places already. Like, I mean, granted, you know, Brianna wasn't here, but we feel like we're missing out. We checked up the Atlas Obscura and probably had 10 times the amount of fun we would have had if we didn't.
So there are 6 things listed for Charlotte, and I've only done 2 of them. Ironically, one of them you literally can't see right now because the face is not available, but still neat.
Yeah, very cool.
Well, you got surrounding area too. You got South Carolina if you wanted to make a day trip or a weekend trip out of it. You know.
Yeah.
No, I'm intrigued. Actually, I will take a peek at going to do some of this stuff.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it. My favorite ones are like be careful because you have to go on someone's private property to do this. And I was like, this is gonna be great.
Those are always fun.
Yeah.
But please let us know what you do whenever you're feeling burnt out on your favorite hobby in the comments. But to the right of me. And until next time, cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.